everyone, and welcome back to episode number 9 of the Building with Breven podcast. Once again, as always, we're happy to be back with you guys for another week and some more valuable content on the process of custom home building. So, Brian, how's everything been since last week, I guess?
In one word, I can say busy, but we've got, from a business perspective, we got a ton of things we're working on, and obviously we're really excited about all of it, and just seeing how things progress, and ultimately getting to building more houses at the same time for our families and our homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most notable we could both touch on is our new website. So for those of y'all that follow along with us, either on Instagram or our social medias, feel free to check out our new website. We've got some cool content on there and a lot of really good stuff as well to supplement the podcast. So we've got some deliverables, documents that you can download and know more about the process of custom home building and what to look for and the pitfalls and et cetera, et cetera. So, definitely excited to get that going. And like Brian said, we've just been slammed and been busy, but that's a good thing. So, I think without further ado, Brian, let's jump into this week's topic, which we wanted to cover all about preliminary building agreements, or as we refer to them, PBAs. Now, preliminary building agreements are different for every builder. Some builders don't even do them, to be frank, but we've found a lot of success in completing preliminary building agreements before getting to the actual building contract. So anyways, with that intro, Brian, you want to kick us off here?
For sure. If I may take a step back for 1 second, I just want to touch on getting to this point. We've talked about in previous episodes selecting a builder and questions to ask your builder, and knowledge and information that the sooner you have it, the better your journey of building a custom home is going to be, regardless of what builder you decide to move forward with. In our sales process, and Breven Homes being a design and build company predominantly, I can't say it's 100% of the time, but that's our focus and where we like to work. The preliminary building agreement comes after something called a concept agreement, which is basically just the design phase of the build, where we work with one of our preferred architects. And in a upcoming episode, we will dive into the concept agreement. So I know it might seem like we're doing this a little bit out of order, but sometimes, like I said, not all the time, but sometimes we will work with homeowners that already have a plan set, and then we skip the concept agreement and we start working from a preliminary building agreement. So
Excellent.
In terms of the flow, that's on our website now, our new website, which lays out our full process. But I just don't want to cause any confusion that we're jumping around. They're both very critical pre-construction agreements, and not one is any more important than the other. But today we want to just focus in on the preliminary building agreement.
Excellent points. Yeah, I like keeping it chronological. So as far as everything we've discussed up to this point has been fairly chronological for our podcast in the building process. And this is basically that next step before you can even get to the starting line, so to speak, of breaking ground on your new home. It is very wise to have some sort of preliminary building agreement in place so that your builder knows exactly what they are building for you. So with that all being said, Brian, what exactly is a preliminary building agreement, or as we like to call it, a PBA?
Because I didn't answer your question the first time and I went rogue, so sorry.
No, now we're back.
We're back. So a preliminary building agreement, or as you say, a PBA, is a formal contract that Breven Homes, we get into with our hopefully future homeowner, that is sometimes called a prelims by other builders. And it's a pre-construction document that includes all of the tasks that need to be organized prior to signing a actual building contract, meaning, okay, we are signing a formal contract to build this home for this price in this time frame. So a very high level in terms of what a PBA is, and we're going to dive into what all that includes, which is a whole lot. And that's why most builders, including us, charge for this, because there's a lot of time and effort and expenses and value in this process.
Awesome. Yep. I think that sums it up really well. And like you mentioned, I mean, this is something that comes before the building contract for the simple fact that it's all valuable information that a reputable builder could not accurately quote your project without knowing these details. So it's one thing to have a plan set from an architect or to already have your lot, all that stuff, but there's so much more that goes into it. You need your landscaping figured out, you need your selections figured out, you need your engineering, your mechanical systems all figured out. So that's all stuff that falls within the PBA, and we'll get to that later in this episode. But for that reason is why reputable builders, as well as us, which we are a reputable builder, but you get my point. They do preliminary building agreements so that they know exactly what they're building. So I may have already touched on it, Brian, but what is the purpose of a PBA?
It's all about peace of mind and insurance for you. To be able to clearly understand what you're getting into before you actually sign the dotted line to build this home is very comforting, right? You can say, hey, I know what I'm in for. And half the battle in building in general, regardless of whether you're building a spec home, a custom job, you're buying a production home, is trying to minimize the surprises, especially the unexpected bad surprises. So what we do with the PBA is work towards having all of the information, as much, I shouldn't say all, as much information as we can before you get into the contract, so that you are at complete peace with moving forward, right? In a nutshell, that's what this is. It's insurance and peace of mind.
Yep. Yep. I like that. And yeah, like you said, it's insurance, but more than anything, it's flipping this on the opposite side. As a builder, I don't understand how other builders can get into a building contract, without knowing these details. And a lot of builders do, which is the scary part. So that's why we like to be upfront with it. This is all part of your building cost anyways, which is really kind of a cool thing to keep in mind. You're either paying it up front or you're paying it once you start the building contract. But unfortunately, you're going into a building contract blind. And so as a builder, if they don't have this information beforehand and it all figured out before you sign that building contract. So we have flipped the script and we do this beforehand. This is all preliminary work that makes us, as well as the clients, feel comfortable and gives them that security of knowing that we know exactly what we're building to as much degree as we possibly can at that time. Whereas other builders that don't do this, they can't say the same. You don't know what you're going to run into as far as mechanicals go and engineering and the frame layouts and all that kind of stuff that come with this preliminary planning. So, yeah, I mean, it's a smart thing to have in place. And I think with that being said, it's kind of a good segue into the next question, which is, what's typically involved and included in a PBA, Brian? I mean, what are they expected to get out of this preliminary process?
I'm going to throw you off for a quick second. I just want to reiterate one point that you made there, because I think it's really important. The work that we are doing in a PBA is work that has to be done by any builder, regardless of who they are, at some point throughout the build. So why not do it up front and get more clarity at the beginning before you sign a building contract versus doing it after, which honestly, the vast majority do, because they say, well, I'll just do it later. And it's all cost that is rolled into the build. So you're not paying more by going through this process. It's restructuring when you pay and how you pay, but it gives you that huge peace of mind. So what you said is very critical, and I just want to make that point clear.
Yep. Yep.
So sorry, I'm
No.
jumping off script a little, but to get back into it, let's jump into the thick of this. What's typically involved? It's a lot, and it's all good stuff. So it involves, just at a high level, and depending on the complexity of your build, it could be more or less than what we described here. But all of our PBA agreements at least consider, or we look at including engineering, both from a foundation and a structural perspective, irrigation and landscape designs, HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning design and engineering, layouts, takeoffs, and estimating, which is estimating and getting the proper amount of materials for all the components of the home, whether that's drywall or tile, or it could be a lot of different things. Where are we? Selections, allowance, right? So if you have not made your selections, well, we need to come up with a proper allowance based off of the home so that you can make selections that are within your budget. From there, exterior selections, interior selections, energy analysis, price optimization, and a job schedule timeline creation. And last but not least, even getting it ready for permitting or approval with the Architectural Control Committee or the HOA or whatever uh, governance is over approvals in the neighborhood that might be in addition to any city or municipality permitting. So we put all that together, package it in a very easy to read format. We hand you a physical binder as well as give you everything electronically. And this is, like we said, all stuff that has to be done. And we do it up front so that you see what all goes into it. And the most important piece is a fixed cost building contract proposal with, here's how much this house is going to cost to build, and it's going to take this long.
Yep. Yep. Well said. And all of those components put together are what can give us that confidence to quote a fixed price contract and give an accurate timeline for that build. And that's why we said this is more of a security blanket than anything at this point in the planning process, that once this is complete, it takes away a lot of unknowns. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff, as you just expressed, but I mean, it's all stuff that has to be done anyways. And it really gives you the full picture of what you're building before you even start. And like we typically say, and like you and I have talked about, this is a situation where we are slowing down to speed up later. This is all stuff, like you mentioned, that has to be done, whether it's before the build or during the build. And we have found it so much smoother to get all this stuff ironed out before the build starts, so that when you start breaking ground and you get to that starting line, it's a race after that. You're not stopping, you're not slowing down for anything, maybe change orders, other things, unexpected stuff, which is all common anyways, but you have everything else that you need already organized to really tackle and crush that build. So, it takes more time planning up front to do it this way, but in the end, I would say it helps the build timeline either be the same or possibly even quicker in the long run, because you don't have any delays throughout the build. So,
yep, I completely agree. And I just want to reemphasize, there's a lot there, but these are all things that need to be completed at this stage to be able to confidently give you a fixed price building proposal, because all of these pieces affect that number. And obviously we're in the business to not go bankrupt, and so we have to have this information to be able to put together a proposal that is fair and allows us to make sure that we don't go bankrupt.
yep. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Yeah, I think that kind of leads us into our next question, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners are going to want to know. But how long does a typical PBA take to complete all these action items?
And as we've said many times before, it depends, but that's not a good enough answer. So what we have seen in our experience in doing these is anywhere from 10 to 15 to 18 weeks. It seems like a long time, but understand that a lot of the work that we're doing is waiting on others to get back to us. So it could be, oh well, we sent in our the plans over to engineers and they're backed up for 3 weeks, or their standard lead time to return to provide their deliverable is 3 weeks. Okay, then we get that back, and then we can move to the next step. So there is a chronological order. We can't do everything simultaneously, and that's why it extends. But I would say, giving a fairly wide range. Most of ours, Stephen, correct me if you disagree, most of our PVAs have come in roughly that 3 month time frame. And what we do is we also set out, as part of the preliminary building agreement proposal, we put in there how long it will take us. And I'm pleased to say we've never missed a deadline to date on that. It's just we have to look at your specific plans and understand the complexity of the floor plan to give you a timeline. And most of ours are coming in around 3 months to complete.
Yep. Yeah, well said. And it's one of our mottos is to always underpromise and overdeliver. So, yeah, like you said, we typically quote around that 3 month mark, 12 weeks. And we're proud to say that, yeah, we've come in under that timeline on everyone so far. So, little feather in our cap, or tooting our own horn, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, it's important, right? We want to make sure that we start the relationship off with our clients on the right foot. And with that being said, we want to clearly explain what this PBA is. We want to let them know why we do it, what's in it for them, and what they can expect at the end of it. Once we've told them how long it's going to take, and they know exactly what they're expecting at that 12-week mark, basically. So, and of course, we give them updates throughout the process. Hey, good news, we just got engineering back. We're moving into the next phase, and we have different phases of the PBA. We keep everybody updated. But yeah, that's just kind of the way we run things, and we found good success with it. So, I guess the next question everybody's going to want to know is, how much does a PBA typically cost, Brian? And maybe we can say it together this time. Our famous answer. It
Or do
depends.
we even need to say it? Yeah.
Yeah, it depends, right? So, anyways, take it from there.
A typical PBA that we have worked on is no less than $7,000 to $8,000. They can range up to 20,000 plus. Again, depending on the complexity of the home. So, uh, a lot of that is our costs. Obviously, all these people we work with don't do work for free, so uh, that's why we have to price that out, understanding your specific floor plan, and come back to you saying, hey, it will be, for example, it will be $13,500, and these are the deliverables we're promising you after 14 weeks, right? So we're very specific in the proposal and what we're offering. And something else I think that's important to touch on here, in what we do, is, as you have said earlier, Stephen, these are all costs that are going to be incurred to build this home at some point. So what we do is, if you choose to move forward with signing a building building agreement with us after the completion of a PBA, we credit the amount of this to the total cost of the build. So, for example, if we have a fixed price agreement, building agreement, that comes in at $1.2 million, but you spent $15,000 on the preliminary building agreement that you've already given us, we will drop the price of the 1.2 down to 1.185 million for the actual contract price, saying, hey, here is your fixed price. You've already paid 15,000 and we take that off the top.
Yep. Yep. Well said once again. And yeah, it depends. But I do want to also add that the majority of those costs are really engineering fees, and all the other components of this are all added together. That's what makes up the bulk of this price, or this PBA cost. So while it might look like a large chunk of a number up front, just like you explained, it's a lot of components. And when you add those all up, that's where we're driving those costs. But the way we've found success is to give credit for that, because it is technically build costs that you don't have to pay once we move forward. So yeah, we do credit that if clients choose to move forward with us. If they don't, and they choose not to move forward with us, they want to go shop other builders, or they just choose that now is not the right time to build for them, or whatever the situation is, we totally respect that. And we give them, of course, all the deliverables that they have already paid for. So they've paid for it, they can take it. They've got the engineering now. They've got a fully buildable plan set and all the details they need to go wherever they want as they please. So it's really a win-win situation, whether they go with us because they're getting credit or they go somewhere else. They already have all the documents they need to feel confident going to another builder. And furthermore, we have presented them with a fixed price proposal so that they know how much it would cost Breven Homes to build their home on their lot with all those specific details. Now, if they go out and shop other builders, that way it's a little easier. It's still not easy, but it's easier for other builders to look at all that and then compare apples to apples. So it's just one more thing that we do and we found success in. But, of course, we would like everybody to move forward with us, but it's not always the case. And we're realistic with that. So that's why we like to give those options.
And it's also important to recognize that the deliverable is there for you to go anywhere, but it's very difficult to compare, as we've talked about in previous episodes, compare apples to apples. Even if you took this price and all the details to another builder, unless they go do all the same work, they could just say, well, here's my cost plus contract and I can come in under that, right? But at that point that they have not done the work to go out and quote all of the stuff. And it comes back to the same concerns with the cost plus agreements, that how do you know their estimate is fairly accurate from the get-go, and then halfway through the build you realize that you're over budget and it just becomes a miserable experience.
Yep. And another thing to note on these PBAs that we do is it's more reassurance that when our clients either paying out of pocket or with a construction loan, they can go to the bank at this point and have a much more accurate number that they can give the bank and say, this is the amount that we need the construction loan for. And here's exactly why. Here are the details of the home. Here's what we're building. Then the bank can verify that with an appraisal and say, yep, based on your selections, everything you've picked, your lot, your home, that all adds up, right? We are going to be able to approve this loan amount for this build, and everybody feels good moving forward. Whereas a cost plus contract, a builder is sending you estimates most likely, or most of the time, and they haven't done a lot of this legwork. So you go to a bank and request your construction loan, and the bank says, okay, well, we'll do our appraisal. We'll tell you how much we'll give you. And then you get to the end of the build and the builder, or you get into the construction loan, even you get it all agreed upon. You're starting, you've got your first couple draws, and then the builder gets hit with some of these unknowns that they could have figured out beforehand with a preliminary building agreement. Then they find out later, you've got to go back to the bank. You've got to go back to your piggy bank, your pocket, whatever, however you're financing the home. to ask for more money because your builder just didn't prepare wisely or properly up front. So just a little aside there that this is why we do this, to make everybody feel more confident.
It's a
So,
really good point. And Stephen, in our experience, some of the banks that we have worked with only work with builders that will do fixed price contracts. If you as a builder walk in the door and say, "Hey, I have a client and we've agreed to do a cost plus contract," some banks will say, I'm not even signing up for that," and they won't give you the money. So
yep,
we've
because they
seen that,
know.
and we've also seen that when you have all of this information up front before the bank ever asks for it, that typically the time to close the construction loan and have it completed to start pulling draws is much faster because they're not having to go through all of the costs and making sure that there's enough room for contingencies and all the unknowns that you just mentioned.
Yep. Yep. Like we mentioned, slow down to speed up. And that's exactly a good example of that. So, well, Brian, I think that takes us into a good way to wrap this up. Let's talk about, what are the final deliverables upon completion of the PBA? What can these clients expect to have in their hands when this PBA is complete?
So it's a fully buildable plan set, meaning it's got all the specifications laid out and detailed above and beyond maybe what we finalized with the architect, right? And that goes into clearly understanding what vision you have for selections around landscaping, interior and exterior, because that can change the cost of labor based off of what materials you might choose, right? So we've gotten into those details and we have discussed that with you and formalized that as part of the fixed price agreement or in an allowance based off of uh, certain criteria or whatever makes most sense for your particular build. Of course, the engineer has taken their time, so they have stamped off on the plans. It's signed off by professional engineers, so you have the assurance that this home is going to be built to the proper code and standards, so that it doesn't fall down. Right, that's critical. And HVAC, right? We talk about HVAC and energy analysis, other takeoffs and estimations so that we can gather proper pricing. So you'll have all of this in your booklet or binder of everything that has uh, been discussed. It's going to be there for your use. What else? Accurate quotes, right? I mean, we have to go out and get bids on plumbing and electricity and all the stuff behind the scenes. And we work with over 100 specialty trades. I mean, it goes on and on with the concrete and insulation and drywall. So we have that database. We have our trades that do a good job for a good price, provide good value. And so we send that off to make sure that we're giving you a fixed price proposal that makes sense for everybody. And some of the other things we've already discussed, right? The job timeline. I mean, obviously you want to know, okay, well, this is my price, but how long is it going to take? If it's going to take 5 years and you're expecting 2 years, that's a problem, right? So we lay that out, as well as what we've also already discussed, the permitting and approvals in the particular neighborhoods and cities, and present that to you. And hopefully you take that and say, hey, this is something that I want to move forward with. I'm extremely comfortable, and it just, I think the best way to sum it up is it just gives you peace of mind so that you can really enjoy the experience of building the home versus constantly being worried or concerned about the budget.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's a lot of information. And just for people that are in their car or whatever, I don't have a pen and paper. Um, it's a buildable plan set is what you're getting, and all the details that come with that. You're getting the engineering, you're getting all the energy analysis, all that stuff. Your selections are being made at that time. And really, in the end, we can hand that over to you, and you are ready as a client, or when you partner with the builder, to jump into approvals, permit approvals, architectural control committee approvals, whatever it is, which is the next step in the build process to really cross that starting line and start on your dream home. So that is our goal, is to get all that stuff set up and in place and figured out and identified before we get to the starting line. And then that's exactly it. We hand you our fixed price, how long this build will take, as well as a fully buildable plan set that we could turn into permitting the next day. So it's a good position to be in at the end of the PBA. You have to wait for it. Of course, you have to pay up front for it. But when you're done, I mean, it makes the rest of the process that much smoother. So I think we've touted about it enough. And I like the note that you added here at the bottom. But yeah, I mean, if people are really interested in seeing an example of this, we're happy to send out a sample deliverable of a PBA or a sample PBA that we send to our clients. So if people are interested in that, reach out to us. And that's something we're happy to share. And it's by no means going to be universal for every builder or every state, but take it for what it's worth. And, hopefully it at least gives some ideas of what we provide and give you more details on what you could potentially expect your builder to provide some of as well.
I completely agree. So this is a really fun topic. It's something that is so critical, as we talked about at the beginning, and we hope that you found value in learning a little bit more about the details of a preliminary building agreement. So, Stephen, I think what we can put on the list is in one of these very next episodes, I think we can dive into the concept agreement. And like you said, while we're doing it a little bit out of chronological order, they're both important, and they both have a different purpose. So, as always, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, same here. And I think on these episodes now, we are going to ask you guys, the listeners, a favor to go ahead and like or subscribe or all that stuff on whatever listening platform you guys are on, because it's really going to help us grow the podcast and reach more people that could provide or gain value from listening to our podcast. So share it with friends. Go ahead and subscribe to us, and we're happy to have you guys as listeners. So thank you. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Yep. Thank you all. Thank you, Stephen.